Okay, so I need to tell you about something that happened in the woods. And I'm not talking about your regular camping trip gone wrong, you know? I'm talking about things that'll make you never want to step foot in a forest again. These are 3 true stories, and I swear on everything, these actually happened. The first one? It involves a hiker who found something he was never supposed to find. The second? A family camping trip that turned into an absolute nightmare. And the third? Well, let's just say some things in the woods are better left alone. So if you're ready, let's get into it. So this first story happened in 2019, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. There was this guy, let's call him James, who was really into solo hiking. Like, the dude would go off the trails and explore places most people wouldn't dare go alone. One weekend in October, he decided to hike this remote area that wasn't really marked on any maps. Just deep, untouched forest. Now, James was experienced, right? He had his GPS, his supplies, everything. But here's where it gets weird. About 4 hours into his hike, James noticed something off. The forest had gone completely silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just this heavy, oppressive silence. And anyone who spent time in the woods knows that's never a good sign. That's when he saw it. There was this structure. Not a cabin, not anything man-made really. It looked like branches and logs had been deliberately arranged into this weird, circular pattern, almost like a fence but primitive. And in the center, there was this dark opening, like a cave entrance, but something about it just felt wrong. James said he felt this overwhelming urge to turn around and leave, but curiosity got the better of him. James pulled out his phone to take a picture, and that's when things got really messed up. His phone just died, completely, but it had been at 80% battery. His GPS, also dead. Both devices just gone. Now he's standing there in complete silence, and he starts to hear this breathing. Not his own. It was coming from inside that opening. Deep, slow breaths, like something massive was in there. James finally came to his senses and just ran. He didn't look back, didn't stop, and just ran in what he hoped was the direction he came from. He said he could hear something crashing through the trees behind him, but he never turned around. Never saw what it was. It took him 6 hours to find his way back to his car, and by then it was pitch black. Here's the creepy part. When he got home and charged his phone, the picture was there. But it wasn't what he remembered seeing. In the photo, there were these shapes. Dark figures standing in a circle around that structure. He doesn't remember seeing anyone there. Now look, that story alone is enough to keep me out of the woods. But wait until you hear what happened to this family. Alright, story number 2. This happened in 2021. In the Appalachian Mountains. There's this family. Mom, dad, and their 2 kids, about 8 and 10 years old. They're big into camping. They do it every summer. This particular trip, they found this perfect spot. Beautiful clearing, stream nearby, far enough from other campers to have privacy. Everything seemed perfect. First night, totally normal. They roasted marshmallows, told ghost stories, and the kids fell asleep. But around 2 a.m., the mom woke up to this sound. Tap, tap, tap. Something was tapping on their tent. Slow, deliberate, rhythmic. She woke up her husband and they both just lay there, frozen, listening. The tapping continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped. They convinced themselves it was just a branch or an animal. The next morning, everything seemed fine, until the dad went to grab water from the stream. About 20 feet from their tent, he found footprints. But here's the thing, they weren't animal prints. They weren't boot prints either. They were barefoot prints, large ones, and they circled their entire tent multiple times, like someone had been walking around them all night. The dad didn't tell his wife right away, because he didn't want to scare the kids, but he was seriously freaked out. They decided to pack up early and said they'd cut the trip short. But here's where it gets absolutely terrifying. As they're packing up the car, the 8-year-old daughter says, "Daddy, why was that man watching us last night?" The parents freeze. "What man?" She points toward the tree line and says, "That tall man. He was standing right there. He didn't have any clothes on. He just stood there and stared at our tent all night. I thought he was a tree at first." The parents are absolutely losing it now. They throw everything in the car and get out of there as fast as possible. On the drive home, the daughter keeps talking about the man. She says he had really long arms, and he never blinked. Just stood there, completely still, for hours. The family reported it to the rangers, but nothing was ever found. No other campers reported seeing anything. But here's what keeps the parents up at night. If the daughter saw him standing at the tree line, then who was tapping on their tent? Okay, that one genuinely gives me chills every time. But this last story? This is the one that messed me up the most. Last story. This one happened to a park ranger. We'll call him David, who worked in the Olympic National Forest in Washington. Now, David had been a ranger for over 15 years. He'd seen bears, dealt with lost hikers, all of it. Nothing really scared him anymore. But there was this one area of the forest that even he avoided. Other rangers called it the station because years ago, there used to be an old fire lookout station there. It had been abandoned for decades, completely overtaken by the forest. Park Service kept meaning to demolish it, but it was so remote that it kept getting pushed back. Anyway, one November, David got called to investigate a missing person report. A solo hiker hadn't checked in, and his car was found at a trailhead that led toward the station area. David had to go check it out. He hiked for about 3 hours, and the whole time, he said he had this feeling of being watched. The forest felt wrong, too quiet, too still. When he finally reached the station, what he saw made his blood run cold. The old lookout tower was there, barely standing, but around it, arranged in a perfect circle, were these offerings. I'm talking about animal bones, arranged in patterns, dead birds strung up on branches, and in the center of it all, scratched into the dirt, was this symbol. David said it looked like a mix between a star and a spiral. He'd never seen anything like it. And then he found the hiker's backpack, just sitting there, right in the middle of the circle, empty. Everything was gone. The supplies, the sleeping bag, everything. Just the empty pack. David knew he had to get out of there and report this. But as he turned to leave, he heard something that made him stop dead in his tracks. Singing. Someone was singing. It wasn't in English. David said it didn't sound like any language he'd ever heard. It was coming from inside the old lookout tower. The tower should be completely empty. David's training told him to investigate, but every instinct in his body screamed at him to run. He compromised. He pulled out his radio and called for backup. But here's the thing. His radio was just static. White noise. It had been working perfectly an hour ago. The singing got louder. And then, David saw movement in the tower's window. A face. But it was wrong. The proportions were off. The eyes were too large. And it was smiling. David said it had too many teeth. He ran. Didn't stop, didn't look back, just ran. When he finally got back to civilization and other rangers went to investigate, they found everything exactly as he described, except for one thing. The missing hiker's backpack? It was gone. The hiker was never found. The station was finally demolished 6 months later, but the crew said they all felt uneasy the entire time they were there. David requested a transfer to a different forest. He still works as a ranger, but he refuses to talk about what he saw that day. The only thing he'll say is this: there are things in the deep woods that aren't supposed to exist. And some places are doors, and we should never try to open them. So there you have it. 3 true stories that'll make you think twice before going off the beaten path. Look, I love nature, and I love hiking, but these stories? They're a reminder that we're not always at the top of the food chain, and some mysteries are better left unsolved. If you made it this far, do me a favor and hit that like button. Let me know if you want more true horror stories like these. Maybe drop a comment telling me about any creepy experiences you've had in the woods. And hey, are you planning a camping trip anytime soon? Maybe bring a friend. Stay safe out there, everyone. And remember, if you hear something tapping on your tent at 2 a.m., it's probably not a branch.